But in a situation where you find that a look at this,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
All right, welcome back. Let's delve quickly into the newspaper review, and we'll start by taking stories on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. And the lead story that we have today says banditry. Wake up to your duties, Senate tells military. And we also have riders here that says deploy fighter jets to flush out terrorists. Buhari says peace coming to Northeast soon, sets up committee to repatriate refugees. Insecurity guzzles trillions in 12 years, and this is according to, an investigative report done, and you can find details of that story on page 5. Right at the top, you'd find stories that say Lamido to old politicians give way to younger generation. Details of that story on page 14. OPEC raises production by 400,000 barrels as oil sustains $90 per barrel. And details of that on page 22. Cop kills soldier who once saved Shehu Borno from Boko Haram. And you can find details of that on page 6. When you come to the bottom, you'd find a story on rail projects that says federal government turns to Europe for loans after delay from China. Now, there's a lot of that going on, saying a lot of people saying that the Chinese are tired of loaning Nigeria money, and they're moving to other sources. And you can find details of that on page 4. Then, still on, at the bottom, you have FRSC clarifies promotion controversy, rising poverty. National Bureau of Statistics has serious problem with data, says Buhari's aides, and then hijab. Kwara students, parents protest continuous denial despite circular. And these are the stories that made the front page of Daily Trust newspaper today.
Okay, as you were actually, reading out some of the, headlines on that paper, our reviewer actually giggled, and I would love to get his comments later as the show progresses. Now, let's take a look at some other stories on The Guardian this morning. The lead story there states insecurity. 10,366 killed in 2021. Buhari pledges change in Northeast, and some of the riders there state killings in Nigeria hit over 2,000 in Q4 of 2021, and this is according to SBM report. Send fighter jets to flush out terrorists from hideouts, Senate urges federal government. You'd also see security forces overstretched, need support, says Abdulsalami. Secure North, media owners lament insecurity, begin sensitization in 19 states. Nigeria in state of war, Afenifere challenges federal government, NAS governors over rising terrorism. You'd also find Makinde Abiodun meeting Ogun over insecurity to install CCTV on highways. And you'd also find other stories on The Guardian this morning, right on page 3. Court finds Malami for truncating trial of Kanu's co-defendants. And on page 3, more doubts hit APC convention dates as Women Coalition demand postponement. Aviation workers threaten strike over welfare, others. And you also see the story about federal government secures $600 million World Bank facility to rebuild North End. And there's a pictorial there that shows trucks evacuating bags of rice from the pyramid at the International Trade Fair Complex, Lugbe, Abuja, yesterday. And just below that, you'll find hashtag EndSARS protest. Duke, Imoke, Ndomaigba, others lost over 45 billion naira property in Cross River. And on page 7, you see the story about don't be deterred by Otom's aspirant. PDP chief tells other Giba contenders. These are some of the major stories on The Guardian.
All right, with that, we'll move on to The Nation newspaper. Right at the top there, you'd find a story that says Oshun APC. Aregbesola group loses out in court. We also have FEC approves $328.87 million for rail consultancy. Zenith, Fidelity, Wema Banks lead 23.2 billion naira 100 for 100 loans. And we also have a story there right above the pictorial that says Kano government files 5 counts charge against Hanifa killer suspects. All right, take battle to bandits, others, Senate tells service chiefs. And that's the lead story on the Nation newspaper, with a writer that says kidnapped suspects shot dead after shootout with security operatives on Benin Auchi Road. And we also have nobody can zone PDP presidential ticket, says Lamido. And a writer that says Tambuwal says we need a competent leader. And these are the stories that made the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Okay, quickly now let's take a look at some more stories on the Punch. And the Punch is leading with a story about Lai Arigbeshola Yeri Keamo lose out. APC inaugurates state's chairman. And some of the writers there say, I have been invited for inauguration. I am in Abuja, Abdurazak-led group chair. Abiodun Omoagege factions set for inauguration. Amosun other groups in limbo. And you'd also see inauguration unfortunate. Factions lament warn APC against contempt of court. You'd find all the stories on the Punch this morning, right at the top on page 21. Federal government requests $600 million World Bank loan to fight erosion, others in northern states. And on page 22, FEC approves $328.8 million railway consultancy services, 115.4 billion naira Katsina Road dualization. And on page 21, federal government states local governments suffered 267 billion naira shortfall in 2021. This is according to FAAC allocations. And right on page 9, Senate laments killings, abductions, demands fighter jets deployment. And you see a pictorial there where Ogun students protest abductions, stone police vans barricading highways. And just below that, Ogun Oyo to establish security team, plan CCTV on highways. You'd also see the story about ex-convicts, others arrested for armed robbery, rape, murder in Ekiti. And right on page 8 on the Punch this morning, Oroshaye on retirement when Maina embezzled 2.7 billion naira pension fund. And this is according to the EFCC.
All right, so moving on to Blueprint newspaper. We have the lead story here that says 16 months to end of tenure. Will use revised approach to address insurgency in Northeast, says President Buhari. We also have writers here that says reassures return of normalcy to region. Order fighter jets to flush out terrorists. Senate urges presidents. 2.2 million displaced persons domiciled in Northeast. 24,000 missing, says Red Cross. And more details can be found on page 6. At the top there, you have CBN's new e-invoicing guidelines may cripple businesses, says MAN. First Bank rewards customers in Visa Gold cashback campaign. We also have Ekiti 2022. Aggrieved aspirants vow to teach APC unforgettable lesson. And criminals after my life, Ogun governor cries out. You'd see a pictorial there, pictorial of the wife of Kwara State Governor Olufolake Abdulrazak, Speaker of House of Representatives Salamatu Gbadabiamila, that's the wife of the Speaker. Wife of Vice President Dolapo Oshibajo, Chairman Wives of Governors Forum, Erelu BC, during the unveiling of a compendium of activities of the First Lady and Wives of Governors in Nigeria, 2015-2023 at the State House in Abuja. That happened yesterday. At the bottom, you'd find a story that says FEC approves $183.7 million Port Harcourt, Maiduguri, Kano Marai, Abuja Warri Railway projects. OK's concession agreement for Onitsha River Port, others. And we also have Ladol, Okay, Samsung Rift opens $300 billion investment opportunities for Nigeria. Gunmen kidnap 5 Gusau Varsity ASU chairs, family members and staffer. Details of that can be found on page 5. These are some of the stories that made it to the front page of Blueprint newspaper.
Okay, let's take one more from Business Day this morning. Talking business, Business Day leads with Africa needs industrialization-led growth to match Asia's success. It also found the story about how tech firms are growing healthcare business. Hospital-focused companies sustain growth. You'd also see why single-digit inflation may elude Nigeria in the next 5 years, and details of that story will be found on page 2. And Middle East smart mobility investment, a lesson for Africa. You'd also find other stories. Debt burden will interrupt Africa's growth trajectory. This is according to Robertson. Why Nigerian farmers fall in loan repayments, EIU, and that story will be found on page 30 on Business Day. You'd also see the story about local investors see opportunities in Nigeria healthcare. These are some of the major stories that you find on Business Day this morning. And we have to review the papers, Hamza Idris, General Editor, Daily Trust, to have a look at some of the stories that made the headlines this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Now, one story that seemed to be making headway on majority of these papers is the issue of, insecurity. And right here it states on the Daily Trust newspaper, banditry, wake up to your duties, Senate tells military. There's also some of the riders there that state deploy fighter jets to flush out terrorists. Buhari, peace coming to Northeast very soon. But one question many would ask is fighter jets really a problem? Because we've seen the deployment of the Tucanos that came in and still we've not seen any results.
Well, first, I have to sympathize with the military on a personal level, because it has become normal for them to be asked to be doing security activities that ordinarily should be handled by sister agencies. Professionally, the military should talk about external aggression and all that. But sadly, in Nigeria, they are in all the 36 states of the Federation, despite the fact that we have other security agencies that's supposed to handle some of these challenges. Of course, now that we have declared bandits as terrorists, the military have a lot to do. But we should not always forget the fact that some of these responsibilities should be handled by the police, by the civil defense, by immigration, by customs, and then above all with the support of intelligence agencies like the State Security Service. We should get this clear, and there is the need for the our leaders to find a way of reducing some of this pressure on the military. I'm not talking or trying to defend the military, but this is the truth. The police should handle things like this. That said, most of these bandits or terrorists or whatever we call them, they live in the forests, and in some cases they have laced these areas with explosives and all that. This is one. Secondly, they have high caliber weapons. Of course, they stole some from our armories, but they imported more from neighboring countries. Therefore, it is very difficult for our ground troops to tackle them. You get it. Hence the need for the deployment of fighter jets for aerial reconnaissance. And the dilemma Nigeria had, even after declaring the bandits as terrorists, was the need to seek for another layer of approval from the people who provided or who sold the fighter jets, so that is the United States. A senator yesterday cried out that why must we seek for this layer of approval before we can deploy these fighter jets to crash the bandits or the terrorists. So there is the political dimension to the problem, but there is the need, I think, for both our external supporters, then our politicians here at home, to coalesce into a force and address this problem. Because every single day, hundreds of people are being killed. What you see in the papers are just the tip of the iceberg. There are many people who are being killed. Hundreds of towns and villages are being sacked. Children are being forced out of school. Women are being raped. Men are being denied access to their farms. So it's a serious humanitarian crisis that the federal government, our supporters from abroad, must have to find a way to solve this problem. And our prayer is that this outgoing administration will not bequeath the problem to another government. Because for over 12 years, we have been fighting. I think there is the need to, transit to another issue.
All right. Now, on the Guardian newspaper, we have a writer that says our security forces are overstretched and need support, and that's attributed to Abdulsalami. Some people would actually say that with the number of paramilitary agencies we actually have in Nigeria and the number of recruitments going on a yearly basis, that that should be enough to, actually fight insurgency and bring it to the barest minimal.
So you can see the former head of state, who was also a military commander, buttressing the point I made earlier. I said in all the 36 states of the Federation, there is no state you will go without seeing the military on the streets. And I don't know, you rarely even see the police in some of these places because almost all the security agencies are overstretched. Nigeria is such a vast country, over 900 square kilometers. It's huge. And then when you put the numbers together, it is quite insignificant. You may end up having probably one security personnel taking care of maybe dozens of citizens, which is not good. Therefore, if you put all the numbers, police, Army, Air Force, Navy, Civil Defense, Customs, Immigration, NIA, DSS, and others, they are quite insignificant. Therefore, whatever it takes, Nigeria must keep recruiting. I know I traveled not quite long and I saw hundreds of youths at the Falgore Game Reserve being screened for eventual enlistment into the Nigerian military. But what about the police? A lot of politics ongoing there. The president, when he came, I think around 2016, he made a pledge that every year about 10,000 will be recruited. I don't know whether we have had that like 3 times. I think we are still on the second batch of that recruitment, simply because of a misunderstanding between the Police Service Commission and the Inspector General of Police. So it's not good for us. If anything, we should be recruiting thousands of police personnel so that the military will go back to the barracks. Customs will take care of what we are being imported. so that they will mop up the weapons that are being brought in illegally. The immigration should police our borders. You know, all these security agencies, they have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. But because we are not getting it right, you see joint task force here, joint task force there, and then at the end of the day, you see rivalry creeping into what they are doing. But assuming each of these security agencies is allowed to do its work within its line of duties, I think we will have gotten it right.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's a very, very interesting infographic on the Daily Trust newspaper, and it looks like we've spent quite a lot over the years, looking at from 2015, 3.8 to 8.45 billion, and now in 2022, it has risen to 1.2 trillion. So, you know, some will ask, is it that this money is budgeted for insecurity? Is it that it's not enough, or what really is the problem?
If you look at the quantum of the challenges, I will admit that it is not enough. They need more because maintaining this military establishment is not just about payment of salaries or building of barracks. Do you know what it costs to import one bullet for AK-47 rifle? What about a bullet for the anti-aircraft missile? What about bomb? It's very, very huge, and it's very, very expensive. And then all the policemen you deploy, all the military operatives, the customs and all that, you are expected to provide them with some of these necessities: the guns, the weapons, the boots, the fragmented jackets, the headgear and all that. They are very, very important, and they cost a lot of money. But the question is whether they are getting these monies as at when due. Yes, I know for several years, it's very unlikely for the security operatives not to get, especially the military, not to get what is due for them. But sometimes they don't get them as at when due. And here lies the problems they are facing. And if you look at the infograph there on the front page of our paper, you can imagine how the figures snowballed from 2015, which was around 388 billion, to now over 1.2 trillion. And if you go back, we just say, okay, let's limit our analysis to 2015, then to 2022. Assuming we went back to the former President Goodluck Jonathan's era, you will shed tears here. Yes, because for some years, they kept budgeting 1 trillion and above, almost every year, for the security agencies. And this is just the budgetary provision. You know, there are a lot of money that is being channeled to the security establishments that are not mentioned for some obvious reasons, for security reasons, for exigencies, and all that. And we know, is it in 2019 or thereabout, some governors had to protest because we had to go to the excess group account to bring out $1 billion. That is how much? Nearly $1 trillion, going by the terrible value of the naira now, because it's over 500 billion. Yes, in order to support the military. So we are spending almost every day. Now, you can imagine, assuming we have peace and we are channeling these monies to health, to education, to agriculture. So it's very sad.
Okay, let's talk about another issue that is, you know, on the front page of almost all the dailies, talking about FEC approving $328.87 million for real consultancy services. What's that all about?
Well, in building or in works consultancy encompasses a lot of issues, yes, because it entails looking at the feasibility studies, looking at the right people that will carry out the contract, looking at compensation, looking at so many other issues. And you heard the Minister of Transportation yesterday saying they are still looking for funds to fund some of these projects, yes, like the Abuja-Wari, the one going to Maiduguri, among others. Our railway is one of the showcase projects of the Buhari administration. Yes, he's so passionate about it, and rightly, if we can get the railway correctly, it's like it will have multiplier effect on so many things, because we will reduce pressure on the roads, meaning these articulated trucks will disappear. I was shocked. I think I said this here once. I was in Switzerland in 2015, yes, for a training. And then we were at the train station with a colleague from Maiduguri. Suddenly, we saw one of these, the trucks with about, the train with over 30 trucks on it. It is conveying these trucks to the outskirts of Switzerland. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Now, this is because they have an efficient rail system whereby they use it to evacuate some of these basics. For fuel, you can imagine if you load 30 or 50 trucks from Lagos, maybe you drop 15 in Abuja, then you move with the rest to Maiduguri or to other parts of the country. That will be great. Yes. So this is the spirit behind reviving the railway. And I don't think if it's not a worthy project, we should find a way of supporting the government to fast track this, because we don't know what will happen when the next administration comes.
Right.
Maybe they may not be interested in the railway project. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Nigeria is indebted, and to push through with the rail project, we need money. And and it seems like China is already tired of us, and we're turning to Europe. What really is going on? Do we have so much debt profile?
I really pity us. You see, they are not forthcoming, but at the time when they were competing with, other countries to have a sound footing in Nigeria, they were giving us the loans left, right, and center. I don't know whether they have started thinking that we are not a worthy indebtor or whatever. But on a serious note, it's sad. It goes to show that very likely we are exceeding the limit. Yes, because if you borrow today, you borrow tomorrow, the borrower will start to think of when will you have, yes, the means to repay some of these loans. And in their wisdom, China is really going to many other countries in Africa. So it's not just about Nigeria. They also have to support other countries. But the minister is saying they are looking towards Europe in order to get some of this money. I don't know whether they will give us. And even if they give us, at what cost? Because it will most likely be double or triple what we will use to repay China.
So if they don't give us, what happens? Because I actually remember a certain time when, a lot of people thought the Chinese would actually take over Nigeria with all the loans they've been giving us. Yeah.
Yes, they have intervened. So I'm sure they will give. Maybe it's just the procedures. Yes, because when you read the story, the minister was also saying they are looking at the Standard Chartered Bank to fund some of these projects. Nigeria is rich, and it's a worthy creditor because we have assets, we have people, and all that. And there are many ways you can repay loans. So even if we didn't get it from China, I have this conviction that the money will come from somewhere.
Okay. Before we quickly wrap up, this other story, you know, about Nigeria's poverty index, and because of lack of employment, it seems to be spiking rather. And President Muhammadu Buhari's aide is saying the NBS has a problem with data.
Yes, we invited him for the daily politics program on Trust TV yesterday, and he made some sense. Yes, he said the NBS, which is the official data generating agency of the federal government, he said it is too much obsessed with the official thing, that they are just talking about civil servants, pensioners, you understand, without giving attention to the informal sector. And he cited an example that if you go to Wuse Market, you see a trader with about 4 or 5 people working in that shop. They didn't take note that these people, you know, are gainfully employed. If you go to the villages, you see people bringing in tons of foodstuff, bringing in livestock to the market, they sell, and they go back home smiling. We don't include them in the calculation. So he said the NBS has to go back to the drawing board to know that it is not just about the federal government or the state government or the local government employing people. I think he made a lot of sense there, because we are obsessed with the officialdom, always saying only 300,000 people are employed maybe by the federal government and all that. But if you go to the informal sector, many people are happy. And there are some, I have friends that are graduates, some with PhD, but they are doing their businesses. They don't care about being employed. If anything, they have provided employment opportunities to hundreds of people through the various endeavors they are into.
Quite interesting. Well, thank you so much for coming on Daybreak this morning. We hope to have you next time.
Inshallah, thank you very much.
We've been speaking with Hamza Idris, General Editor, Daily Trust, giving us perspectives on some of the stories that made headlines this morning.
When the situation where you find that a look at the
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that